Let's see. We will see. Oh, look, we're back on YouTube. If you want to go back to YouTube, you can go back to YouTube now, because we're back live on the air. Of course, we're back live on the air, and I don't know for how long, but we're at least back live on the air. So, since we're back live on the air for a hot minute, before we actually end the show, we'll go ahead and turn on the call-in button again and give people the opportunity to call in if they want to do so. But yes, we are back, no longer blocked on YouTube. For whatever frickin' reason that was necessary for. I mean, they don't understand. They don't. If you don't have the technology to figure out free use, then you shouldn't block people for using somebody's content, because especially political content. Because let's see. For a while during today's stream, while I was doing a reaction video to Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, I got my YouTube stream blocked. Why did I get my YouTube stream blocked? Because they said I was using, I guess, Tucker Carlson's content. But I was using his content under what is called fair use. And if your technology can't figure out whether or not somebody is doing something with fair use or not, then you should force them to make a copyright claim if they're using their video in an incorrect way. And you should not automatically block people just because they're using somebody's video, because you can't determine whether or not there is fair use going on or not. And this has been a very short Liberal Dan Radio Fat Man rant. And actually, I didn't even frickin' record it while I was doing it, so I'll have to download it and then re-upload it, I guess. So, yes, Stephanie, YouTube does suck. And yes, I am back. And the phone lines are open if you want to call in. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Am I right with 32? I am right with 3261. Look at that. I know my own phone number. So, just a reminder to everybody over on YouTube, go to shirts or store.liberaldan.com, which is an HTTP, not HTTPS, or you can just go to here. You can do that. That is the link to the Liberal Dan Radio. I got the wrong one. That's still the wrong one. It keeps scrolling up on me, pinning the message on the top of the chat. So, there you go. We will still give a few minutes for people to call in. If nobody does call in a few minutes, we'll still probably end the show early so I can get all these videos uploaded and whatever, and get to sleep. Because, again, I've been really tired, especially because I've been having to do work in my pool. So, I know, big fancy Dan has a pool or whatever. It is so... it is a very difficult decision to justify anybody getting a pool, because there's so much labor, so much expense going into the upkeep of the pool that I don't know if it was ultimately worth it. But at this point, we need to at least get it fixed so that we can actually use it over the course of the rest of the summer. Granted, summer just started, even though it's been hot here since April. But yeah, so we finally have everything fixed. Hopefully, we'll get the new sand in the filter by Thursday, so we can be running, and maybe I'll come back from vacation and I'll have a clear pool. Who knows? Stephanie, we have an inflatable hot tub. Nice. We used to have an inflatable hot tub, but it got all funky, and we just basically disassembled it and yeeted it. Whatever. It is what it is. So, wait, I'm sorry. That's not my line. That's the Nazi-in-Chief's line.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so let's see. We have, give it about, it's 9:57 if nobody calls in by 10. So 2 minutes, and 2 minutes left. We'll just go ahead and probably end the show. Stephanie, I used to work as a pool cleaner, no more. I don't blame you. It's a pain in the ass. Last year, I could not get the pool. I could not get it clear. Now, that's because we needed new sand, and, well, you know, wasn't really aware of that. Again, this is my first pool that I've ever owned. And then, of course, when the motor broke and I couldn't filter the pool, it just kept getting more and more and more and more gunk. Oh, there you go. We have a call. And it is Big Hook. So Big Hook saved the show. Hey, Big Hook, caught us just under the wire. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah. What happened? Your stream dropped before then, and wasn't
Yeah,
quite sure whether I was gonna get
we were
another
on,
chance. So
we were only on Twitch for a second, and then I tried to reload YouTube back up, and YouTube stopped blocking me because YouTube didn't like the fact that I was responding to the Ted Cruz Tucker Carlson video because I guess I was using their copyrighted content or whatever. But you can use copyrighted content under fair use under copyright law, and since YouTube doesn't seem to have the functionality to determine whether or not fair use is being used or not, they shouldn't be blocking channels when they're doing it. That being said, it's their channel, it's their policy, it's their programming, so I guess you have to follow what the YouTube overlords want you to do, right? So there you go.
well, I think you're not allowed to play the whole clip in full and then comment afterwards. I think you have to actually break it up in between. I think that's
Well, I was breaking it
probably
up
why.
though. From what I've seen from other channels that do it, they usually can have no more than 10 minutes in any given video. Is what
Well, you
happens.
know how
But
it is. There's always a stinker out there who loves to report and
I'm sure.
and
I don't
try
even
to
know
mess
if
things up.
I don't even know if it's that though. I think it's just YouTube's stupid functionality. I just think I think because the YouTube has technology in it that will. There was one time when I did I uploaded a very short reaction video on my Nerdy Dan channel for Game of Thrones, and I didn't use, I don't think, more than 2 minutes of clip from Game of Thrones. And in the amount of time it took, I uploaded the video like right at 10. At 10:01, I got a copyright flag on the video saying that there was an automatic flag. Now, the part of the video that had the questionable copyrighted content, which again, fair use, was like 3 minutes into the video. So the system was just automatically picking it up and then saying, "Oh, well, here's this video that's." So the system automatically picked it up and then automatically reported it. So there was no human intervention whatsoever because there couldn't have been because no human could have possibly watched the entire video to the point where the copyrighted whatever started because it didn't have enough time to get from start to there. So, and again, I've always been saying for a while that when YouTube does this and gives people copyright strikes, they need to force the people who are making the reports on those videos to say, yes, this is a valid claim or not, and have a human come in and say, I am verifying that this is a valid claim. Or else, because if they don't, then that just allows a crap ton of false positives, and then it makes the responsibility. Again, they should be required to make correct reports. They should not be allowed to just report everything, including fair use. So, but anyway, that's my little bitch. Thank
Yeah,
you. Oh, wait,
no.
Aaron just bought an Al Gore needs more rhythm shirt. Thank you, Aaron. You're awesome. So anyway,
Yeah. Looking at what's going on now down there, I think you guys are in for a violent revolt. Because I mean, you look, Katie Fang had a thing there, and there was this guy, and the guy was like 49 years old. He was doing landscaping work at an IHOP, and they got him, and apparently he was going to his van to go grab some ID, and they basically threw him to the ground and put him in cuffs, and because he was resisting, they started hitting him in the face. And I was like, like this is ridiculous. And the worst of all is that apparently he's got three sons, all who have one who has already served 1 4-year term in the Marines and two that are currently serving.
now is this an
And
example? Was this an example of somebody who was undocumented but was just simply doing labor and not harming anybody, or is this an example
well,
of somebody who
apparently
who had
he's undocumented, but he's been here since the 1990s, and he has paperwork in process to to get his proper legal documentation. So I mean, but I mean, I think it's a case of he's obviously married a U.S. citizen, and you know, that sort of thing. But
you know what? I hope his sons who served in the military, if they voted for Trump, I'm not going to cry for it, because they're getting what they deserve at this point. So,
well, I don't think that's the case. But at any rate, the thing I'm saying is that if you get arrested and deported to another country under a false accusation and you're submitted to a prison, that's the same as a death sentence.
yeah.
So, like, they're in a no-win situation no matter what. So, I mean, at this point, if they shoot and forgive my language, but if they, you know, use force against these ICE agents who, you know, are now effectively ISIS agents, you know, no, who could blame them?
Well, early in the show, I was calling them terrorists. I said this ICE terrorist raid, because that's what they are. They are terrorizing communities. The city of Kenner every year has a Hispanic Heritage Festival. Every year. I used to live there. I lived there from 2001 maybe to 2006 is when I lived in Kenner. I moved out of Kenner again. They've had the Hispanic Heritage Festival for a very long time. They canceled it this year. Why? Because they didn't want to have ICE raids coming in and swooping down and just, you know, sweeping in. Because they're not just going after people who are here in undocumented ways. That's the biggest fallacy that a lot of these brain-dead, mind-controlled, poorly educated MAGA folks have, you know, been fooled. Because every time they show it, they show the whatchamacallit, like the military, the Marine whose wife is now being held in a ICE detention facility, and other people, in all of these articles where they talk about ICE detaining people, and where the story is meant to, like, you know, shock you. Oh, what does the administration hear? Every single one of these MAGA ass clowns are like, oh, well, maybe they should have followed the law. And then immediately my response is, you do know that they've not only taken American citizens and have deported them, but they're taking people who were following the law and deporting them. They were taking people who were going through the proper steps and deporting them. They were taking people who were here legally and changing their status just so they could deport them. So all these people that are trying to make these claims, that's why we need to push back on them, and hard. But again, these idiots in the media are not doing their job to lead with the whole thing of the title of the article should be legal resident of country detained by ICE. That's what it should say. But they won't, because they're too chicken shit to go against this administration. And until they start doing
the media.
Right. And that's
Trump
why we need a new media.
Media.
That's why I'm repeatedly saying we need a new media. But unfortunately, people are watching people who like do clickbait and shit. Like, was it Brian Tyler Cohen had some video or something of some hypocritical Republican congresswoman from Florida who had like a miscarriage at like 6-7 weeks or something, or and so she was trying to get treatment, and it took her a little bit to get treatment because, well, they didn't know. She tried to blame liberals for her not being able to get the help that she needed, but in reality, it's her stupid party that prevented her from getting the care that she might need, or delayed the care that she might have needed to deal with her ectopic pregnancy. But that happened like last year, and now somebody's like, breaking news, like I think his name is Brian Tyler Cohen or something. Breaking news, here's a conservative hypocrisy. No, this happened last year. Stop fucking with the clickbait and report actual news that's going on now instead of distracting us with news from last year. But these clowns have, like, thousands and thousands or millions of followers who are not going to question it, and instead are going to be like, oh, let's let ourselves get outraged over something that we should have been outraged over last year, but now there's other stuff that's happening right now that this is distracting from. So basically, people like that, even if they're on the left, are carrying Trump's water, because instead of focusing on the things that Trump's doing now, they're focusing on bullshit that took place from last year. So,
Yeah, but like on the Stephanie Miller show in the mornings now, I keep saying, we need to start taking action. So, like, offer safe harbor to these people when they're out there. The other thing is use an air horn and and warn people that ICE agents are in the area and whatnot, so that way they can run for cover. Businesses need to lock their doors and refuse service to these people.
yep.
You need to boycott the car agencies that give them their cars. You need to document them. Go to the hotels where they're staying at, and when they're unmasked, take pictures of them and dox them and put flyers out, and make sure that they are revealed, because they are hiding deliberately, because they know what they're doing is cruel and illegal, but they don't care because they're operating under the doctrine of white supremacy.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. This whole thing is all basically a white supremacy thing.
Yep.
It's a fascist dictator, but the underlying motivation is white supremacy. That's all there is to it. There's no other explanation. These guys are idiots. They think that they're superior, and then the ones that aren't white and who are following orders supposedly think that, oh, well, I'm part of the club, so they'll never turn on me. And it's like, yes, they will. The minute they find you're not useful anymore, they will turn on you as well.
I'd start singing the Leopard Eat My Face song, but I'm afraid YouTube will stop streaming me again if I start, singing the song, even though I'd be doing with my own terrible voice instead of her lovely voice. Go ahead.
But anyway, this is what it's come down to. So, basically, you need to move in large groups of people. You need to be wearing baseball caps, sunglasses, and a face mask. And, and don't make it easy for them to pick you out. Wear a white T-shirt. Everybody should wear a white shirt. And so that way they can't pick you out of a crowd, and none of this, don't make it easy for these guys. The other thing is offer safe harbor to these people in the neighborhood, so if you fear for getting arrested, or you hear an air horn in the distance, you know that you can knock on a door and somebody will let you in and say, wait for the all clear, whether it be, 2 horn blasts versus 1 horn blast or whatever you decide. But you need to do neighborhood watches and community organization, and you have to basically push back. It's come time. We have allowed this to carry out to the point where it is now basically an ongoing genocide, and if you don't push back, you are responsible for it. And that's my problem. This has gotten out of hand because too many people have just been looking on and going, yeah, it doesn't affect me, and it does affect you now.
Yep.
It does affect you. Why? Because now there's not going to be food on the shelves. Now there's going to be increased gas prices. Your cost of living is going to go up, and when they're finished terrorizing and removing the immigrants, they're going to come after the black people and anybody that spoke up, because, they're pulling the same rendition thing there with Palantir. They're basically monitoring your social media, and they're going to figure out who is a rebel, and they're going to basically, imprison you or come up with some other bullshit thing to bankrupt you via, court costs, So either we all stand together and we say enough is enough and make this fucking shit go away, or, this is the whole Nazi playbook.
Yep.
What was the first thing that Hitler did? He basically went and he started isolating and scapegoating the lower class, or the people who were different, whether it be Jews or the Gypsies or the LGBTQ community, and he removed them, and he
Yep.
and he jailed them, and then he removed them, and then they were just selectively executed. He used them for slave labor. Another one of these things that people don't realize. And the thing is that, don't look in the mirror and tell yourself, oh, I haven't done anything wrong. Yes, you have. You know why? Because we get everything for cheap from China. And guess what? That is effectively a dictator country with slave labor where they have no choice and it's their only means of survival. So to say, oh, I didn't do nothing, yes, you did.
Well, that's why I constantly say there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, and a lot of people will push back on that, and of course there are people who think that because I just used the term liberal Dan because some conservative named me that years back, like probably over 13 years ago at this point, maybe 15 years ago at this point. Somebody named me Liberal Dan, that somehow I'm not leftist or progressive because I dare use the word liberal. But, I mean, capitalism, just allows these giant corporations to profit off of the pain of other people. And they will consistently profit off the pain of other people until we tell them no. But we can't do that unless we all get together and collectively tell them no, and we have unfortunately too many people who follow the poor Confederate, soldier idea where those people were never gonna. Well, hold on, those people were never gonna own slaves, but they were convinced by the upper folks that maybe one day, if they work hard enough, that they might be able to own a slave too, and they didn't want to be denied that opportunity, even though the odds of them getting there was slim to none. But they'll still. There's power to be had when the people above you can make you think, financially at least, can look down at you and say, well, hey, don't look at us, look down at the other people who are trying to take your jobs or take your place in society or steal whatever it is, from your social status that you are. So you're too busy looking down at the people who they've convinced you are below you, instead of both of y'all looking up to see, oh, these are the real shitheads who are causing the problems. So.
Well, that's just it. It's the employers. And I was watching Anthony Davis with Jared Sexton Yates, and he really did a marvelous job of laying it all out and how, this has become the norm. Because the thing is that he's not going to get rid of all the immigrants. You know why?
Because he hires them. He hires them.
Well, exactly. But here's the thing. It's sending the message that you don't get to negotiate what your wage is anymore. I get to tell you what your wage is, and I get to tell you that you either work or I send ICE after you and send you to your death sentence. I mean, this is what it is. It's basically, it's telling them that that I own you, that you're my slave now, and I dictate the terms by which you live and how you survive.
Especially Donald Trump, because Donald Trump will be like, oh, I'll pay you $3 an hour, and they'll be like, okay, and then they'll do the work, and they'll give him $1.50, and they'll be like, I thought you said you'll give me $3, and he'll be all Darth Vader-like, I've altered the deal, pray I don't alter it further. Because that's how he does business. That's how he's done business in the past, and he'll continue to do it because he's a piece of shit. So.
Well, here's my thing, okay? I suspect that all these MAGA farmers who need the immigrant labor are waiting till they go and they have basically harvested the crop, and then they're calling ICE and saying, come get them, because I'm not going to pay them.
Yep.
And I'll bet you dollars to donuts that that's what is happening.
Can you imagine that? Because, like, just sit there, like, you quote hire a bunch of people, you have them work for you for a couple of weeks and say, oh, I'll pay you at the end of the month, and then it comes the end of the month, and then their ICE shows up. And then the next month, they lather, rinse, repeat, hire some more people who are undocumented. And then all that ends up doing is that will just end up making Donald Trump to his supporters look like he's doing something great. Because, oh, look at all these people that the ICE raids are gathering because they're just gathering them all up. But then in reality, it's just the people, the MAGA farmers who have no problem taking advantage of these people, just bringing them in,
Well, that's what
getting
it
their
is.
cheap
It's white
labor.
supremacy.
Yeah,
It's white
exactly.
supremacy. That's all it is. These guys think that I want to go back to the good old days when I had slave labor and I was able to whip them whenever I wanted and told them what they had to eat. If I had nothing, if I decided they didn't deserve to be fed, then they didn't deserve to be fed, or whatever, And I mean, I swear, these people were raised by monsters. This is the conservative think pattern. Is that fuck everyone until you get everything that you want, and that's the thing. That's how they operate. They're soulless ghouls who basically, they're soul eaters. They take advantage of everything, and they go, oh, I'm being fiscally responsible. No, you're just being a fucking criminal.
Yep.
You're less than human.
Josh brings up the point too, is like that would be great for the new private detention centers. So just imagine that cycle. You create these large private detention centers for people who, are here illegally, regardless of whether or not they're actually here in violation of our laws or not. They go, the farmers report them, the ICE comes and snatches them all up, they put them in a detention center, and then they just kind of do a recycling thing. Oh, well, now the farmers can just have them do slave labor, because slave labor is legal in America as long as you're a prisoner. If you're a prisoner, you can do slave labor. That's not against the Constitution. So they could just make that a whole cycle, like they've done with black people for a while now. Is you create laws like loitering, like that's why loitering exists as a law in this country. Not because they thought, oh, the people that loiter are dangerous. No, they thought, oh, we can manufacture a crime that these unemployed black people can be charged with because, well, we've just stopped them from being slaves, so therefore they have nothing to do and no one will hire them, so they're standing around in a corner. Oh, now you're loitering, and then we'll put them in prison for loitering, and then what did we do? We sold the labor back to the plantations that they previously were working at, just so the plantations can still get cheap labor. And lather, rinse, repeat. We do that all through up until modern day, and now we're going to even do it even more, probably just, tenfold once we start creating these private detention facilities, and when we stop shipping them off to El Salvador and just create our own concentration camps.
Well,
And
like
Stephanie in chat says don't give them any ideas. That's why sometimes I'm maybe glad I'm a smaller podcast, because I can say things and there's less of a risk that somebody in the administration will hear it. But there were times back in the day where I was like, I don't want to say this thing that I'm concerned that Donald Trump is going to do, because he might actually do it, and then I might feel guilty about the fact that I gave him the bad idea to do it in the first place. So
yeah, but he's got dozens of evil people whispering shit in his ears, and I mean, he's already got the Hitler playbook that he's currently playing out. I mean, he's doing absolutely pretty much everything that Hitler began his reign of terror doing. And I mean, that's just it. I mean, you got Abbott in Texas now. Apparently, he's overcrowded the facilities, and he's got women now fighting for water, including women with babies, 9-month-old babies, and it's like, he's going to kill that baby, because the thing is that they require formula.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give a baby water. They can't handle it. I mean, and this is the whole thing. They go, oh, but we're and it's like, no, you're animals. You're animals. You are cruel. You love being cruel. You love being a monster, and this is what it is. And the funniest part of it is that they say, "Oh, don't call us maggots anymore." And it's like, you are maggots.
Yes.
Because you go and you approve of this stuff, and if you don't speak up and you don't say no, and you go, "Oh, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Trump says, but I agree with his immigration policies," and it's like, no, you don't.
Right.
You're just basically a racist, bigoted person who doesn't want to see brown and black people. This is all bullshit. It's a dog whistle. Immigration is a dog whistle now. It's what they use to try and, deflect and make take the argument away from you, and they'll say, oh, but and it's like the Democrats have been trying to fix the system forever, and nobody will allow it to happen. And why? It's free fucking labor. It's slavery. It's using these people because the rich can only profit when they don't pay fair wages, they don't pay for benefits. They know the people that are undocumented can't get workman's safety compensation. There's nothing there. They know that they won't report, and worst of all, they know that at any point in time they can call somebody from ICE and they'll come and scoop them up, and yep, that problem's gone now.
Now, I don't know how much of this is Abbott's fault or not. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to blame Abbott on, so don't get me wrong on that. I mean, I'm not trying to defend Abbott here, but according to this article, in McAllen, Texas, at the South Texas Family Residential Center, which makes it sound much more nice than it is. And adults fighting kids for clean water, despondent toddlers, and a child with swollen feet denied medical care. These first-hand accounts from immigrant families at detention centers include an motion filed by advocates Friday night are offering a glimpse into conditions at Texas facilities. Families shared their testimonies with immigrant advocates filing the lawsuit to prevent the Trump administration from terminating the Flores Settlement Agreement, a 90s-era policy that requires immigrant children detained in federal custody to be held in safe and sanitary conditions. Like, don't fucking tell me you're pro-life conservatives, MAGA folks, Trump, Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson, any of the other shitheads that are out here carrying Trump's water. Yeah. Don't tell me that you're fucking pro-life when you're sitting here trying to fight the requirement to keep children in safe and sanitary conditions. Yeah, fuck that and fuck y'all. Not you, obviously, but,
Well, like I said, this is where it's gone. We have to be active now. We are the resistance. We have to we have to do like what the French did now. We have to basically get in their way. We have to be an obstacle to how they think they're going to operate, and put these people in the spotlight and say, okay, we know who you are and we know where you live and we know everything, and guess what? You're going to be held accountable one day. And this is the other problem, which is that your fucking court system sucks.
Yep.
Nobody is ever held accountable until 10 years after the fact, and then they go and they plea it down to, probation. It's like, fuck off. It's just, justice doesn't exist unless it's at the end of a rifle now these days. It really is. It really is sick, because that's what it's come down to, I mean, if you really truly want justice, I mean, it takes forever and ever and ever to get anything done. And, and then all you got to do is catch the wrong judge on the wrong day, and guess what? You're fucked.
Yep.
So what's the point? And this is why I say it's going to come down to violence eventually, because people are not going to stand for it any longer.
Just to throw in something else real quick, just that I also found. According to the same newspaper, different article, different date. Texas youth prisons, children trapped in their cells use water bottles and lunch trays for toilets. So this is something that it was Greg Abbott's fault, because it's Greg Abbott's responsibility as the head of the state to actually have, safe prisons for the people that they do whatever. So just so we're not under any other, just so nobody can pretend that I'm sitting here defending Abbott, while he might not have control. I'm just trying to make a point. Just say, like, yes,
go ahead.
Abbott has done shit stuff with kids when it comes to children incarcerated under his administration as governor of Texas. There's also stuff going on now with Trump and his administration. Just basically, Republican administrations are trash at the federal, state, and local levels, and they can never claim to be pro-life if they're going to, deny health care to children who are, in custody, if they're going to force them to use water bottles and trays to go to the shitter and take a piss with. Like, it's... The conservative movement has no morals, no ethics, and anybody who wants to pretend otherwise at this point is just either taking a lot of drugs or fooling themselves, or both.
But that's just it now. You know, I mean, they try to hide their cruel intentions behind the shield of Christianity, evangelical shit, and all the other stuff. Oh, but. It's like, you know, they don't believe any of it because they know that nothing bad is going to happen to them. So they act like assholes because that's what they enjoy.
Yep.
They can't earn anything, you know, honestly. You know, they all follow the same marching orders and they parrot the same talking points, and none of it makes sense. And when you push back on them and you prove to them that it's not real, they go, well, that's your opinion. And it's like, no, it's fucking evidence.
Right.
You're talking bullshit and we're talking facts. And there is a difference. And the fact that you have no shame to the fact that you have been lying your ass off and torturing people and lying to other people and spreading shit everywhere is where the problem is. Because there are no consequences for it. The accountability does not exist in the U.S. dictionary. You know, it only seems to account. The only time it counts is when, oh, it's an immigrant, or it's a black person, or it's somebody who spoke up and revealed the evil that lurks within the Republican administration. You know, I mean,
right.
You had that attorney general there that went and ran over that guy, and then claimed, oh, I didn't know anything. And it's like, your windshield was busted and you had a pair of eyeglasses in your car, and you thought, oh, I'll just pretend it was a deer and whatnot. And I mean, it's like, this is the kind of shit that they think that they can get away with.
Yep.
You know, it's where we are now.
They're for law and order, except for when it comes to themselves.
No one is above the law in this country.
I don't have any sympathy or hope that the Republicans can change at this point, because they don't. You know, they say, oh, but tax breaks. It's like, tax breaks are meaningless when your costs keep going up. You aren't smart enough to catch that.
Right.
Yes, the rich get richer. But here's the thing. They are just like you and me. They have, maybe 2 or 3 pairs of pants? 3 pairs of shoes? So what happens to all the rest of that money? You know? It doesn't go back into the economy as a circulation. It doesn't fund any social services or anything else. So where does it go? But I love my Republican brothers and whatnot, you know, and this is capitalism at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, it isn't. It's just cruelty on steroids.
Capitalism will never be at its finest, though, because capitalism is not fine. So saying capitalism at its finest is a bug of society, not a feature. Capitalism at its finest is causing harm and death and destruction to many innocent people. So, I mean, they might believe that saying capitalism at its finest is something good, but in reality, it's not.
Well, like I said, I really wish the best for you guys, but until everyone that is capable of standing up and making change does it, this nightmare is not going to stop. In fact, it's only going to get worse.
Right.
You know? And if it results in a civil war, there's not anybody here in Canada that's going to be surprised.
No.
Because you guys have let shit go way too far. You guys keep, letting shit happen. And there are no stop gaps. You haven't said enough is enough. You know? You're the worst kind of alcoholic. You gotta hit rock bottom before you realize, oh, there's no more alcohol left. Now what do I do?
Right.
You know? I mean, I don't know. I'm a concerned Canadian who sees what's going on there, and I'm worried like shit because there's a lot of good, great people who contribute to society. And, and not as a one of the things that Jared Sexton Yates said was, don't contribute to the system anymore. Don't fund the Democrats anymore. Give it to the charities that are going to help the people that are going to fall in the gaps now, because the money's no longer there, and Trump is going to basically run away with it all. So, it has now become our responsibility as citizens to fill in the gaps. And the Democrats, they aren't getting anything done at this point. I agree. They are way better than the Republicans, but, when they got the ball in their court and they got the opportunity, they don't get shit done. I mean, Biden did some amazing things despite interference from the Supreme Court, but it shouldn't be like that. I mean,
Right.
That's just it. I don't know. I'm really worried. I'm really worried. I really want better things for you guys. You guys can't even figure out fucking universal fucking health care. You're letting people die in the streets. You're letting them become homeless. You're allowing them to become bankrupt via medical conditions that are, should be handled, And I mean, this is just it.
I think America. This is not necessarily related to this particular issue, but it can be in that, like, one of my Facebook memories the other day had had something that I had tweeted out that we won't solve the problem with the violence from law enforcement against Black Americans until white Americans stop viewing it as bad stuff that's happening to them, and instead start thinking about it as bad stuff that's happening to us, i.e., Americans, bad stuff happening to one set of Americans. But we don't do that because we, unfortunately, too often like to categorize ourselves into groups, to as many groups as possible, so that we can sit here and say, okay, well, it's not happening to me, so I feel better about myself. And the same thing is happening here. This won't stop until enough people are be like, this is not just something happening to them. This is something that our government is doing to everybody. Our government is terrorizing everybody with these actions. It's just this group is the first group of many that are going to happen because not enough people learn the poem. And if you don't understand the poem of first they came for you're never going to get it. But the moment you mention that poem to anybody who's a MAGA conservative, we're not in 1940s. We don't have concentration camps yet in America. Well, you don't need to have it because we're worried about getting there.
But you do. You already have concentration camps in America.
Well,
that's just it. You
right.
have private prisons. You have, people.
But they don't see it like that. They'll make
trial.
excuses. They'll make excuses, and they'll think, oh, well, they're just going to El Salvador's
not
here.
Who can afford a lawyer to contest a charge? So they take a plea bargain because they think, oh, I don't have any options. I mean, this is just it. There's, those who have money face a different reality, legally as well as other things. And then the other thing is that because of the neoliberalism trap that you guys have all fallen into, you're basically you wear chains around your legs because now your health care is tied to your job. You know, I mean, that's just it. You don't have freedom. All this, oh, we're free. We have freedom. That's what makes America great again. You don't have freedom, you dumb fucks.
Nope.
What you have is capitalism that's incorporated slavery amongst the high-functioning bunch of you that they decided are worthy. That's all it is.
And my jumping from a Medicaid type system to the work system, has siphoned $1,000 a month away from my, away from my ability to, support my family. So hold on. I feel like I may have to do a fat man rant, another rant here in a second, because somebody in the chat goes, I'm the prize XY in chat goes, Dan, you should fix black on black crime. There's no such thing as black on black crime, because it's just, when people are more likely to be around the same type of people, crimes between them are more likely to be higher than between them and other groups. So, like, deaths, black people murdering black people, a lot of the time happens to, be a lot of responsible for a lot of the murder of black people. But white on white crime, quote unquote, is pretty much the same percentage. But you don't hear people talking about that because they don't want to, shove off the responsibility of who's killing white people on just, they would want to solve that. But when it comes to us trying to put a, when it comes to societal, things that are going on in this country, for example, if you're an unarmed black man, you're 3.5 times more likely to be shot by the cops than if you're an unarmed white man. They'll be like, oh, but it's black on black crime and black this, black that, black whatever. I'm like, no, you are, they are more than willing to avoid the actual data that comes out of, information, the limited information that we have on policing, because that's one of the things that the conservatives love to do, is they love to make sure that we can't see all the data, so we don't question the people who are supposedly enforcing our laws. Of course, when the people who are supposedly enforcing our laws are violating the laws, be they Derek Chauvins and George Floyd, be they ICE when it comes to people who are accused of being here in an undocumented and illegal manner, when it comes to anybody, Border Patrol snatching up an American citizen who happens to have a mental disability, who can't necessarily fend for themselves, and fortunately, in their case, had a family member who took it upon themselves to make sure that they found the person and got them released. Had it not been for the family person, who knows where this American citizen with a mental disability might have been, simply because that person thought that since they were had an issue and they wanted to find back home, the best person to ask that they thought would be a frickin' police officer, and that's false. So,
well,
anyway.
I wouldn't. Here's the thing: I wouldn't. If I had other options, police officer would be the last person I would call.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because guess what? More often than not, they will go and they'll say, "Oh," they start looking at you as a suspect because they figure, "Oh, you're not a concerned citizen. You're probably trying to cover it up." I mean, they are suspicious and paranoid as fuck because and this is the thing that gets me with a lot of the cops, unfortunately. Because they are allowed to lie and do everything else. Basically, they have allowed themselves the criminal behaviors that they use to profile other people with, and then they just assume everybody is guilty except for me because I have a badge and a gun, and it's the same crazy shit all over again, I mean, it's gotten a little better with the dash cams and as well as the body cams, but, that hasn't stopped them.
Nope, they'll just turn off their body cam. They turn off the body cam. You had the case I think in New Jersey where some guy was about to get railroaded by the police because when the police officer was struggling with him in the car, he kept saying, "Stop reaching for my gun, stop reaching for my gun." And if it wasn't for the dash cam of the other officer that pulled in right in front of that car to show you that the individual was not actually reaching for the gun, if it wasn't for that dash cam, that person would have been railroaded and would have been, got charged with resisting arrest, would have got charged with a whole bunch of crap that he shouldn't have gotten charged with, because law enforcement in this country has been taught unofficially, wherever you are, there are many of law enforcement officers who are taught to start screaming, "Stop resisting, stop reaching for my gun," even if they're not doing either of those things, because it gives them plausible deniability in any sort of criminal trial that takes place, so it lets them get away with crime. So, and if they happen to either inadvertently or purposefully shoot the person, they could bring up what was said on that on the audio of the stop resisting,
Well,
stop
that's
reaching
just
for
it.
my
You
gun
have to
to get away with murder. So,
But that's just it now. You have to be proactive with your cell phone. You have to make sure that things go directly to the cloud. You got to take those. You have to assume that your own witness is
wait, hold on.
and that and unless you got it streaming to a cloud backup, they'll take your phone and they'll delete it, or they'll do whatever. There is nothing that is beyond reproach with these guys. They will fucking lie their asses off, and they protect each other, and they want to pretend that I protect you, and you don't protect anybody. You just enjoy going out there and bullying people. That's all it is, let's face it. Most of the things that they go after people with, especially within the traffic authorities that they have, you could easily just send a ticket in the mail. It's not necessary to go through all the rigmarole and I got to have my ego stroked, it's just fucking bullshit. It's a toxic white supremacist culture that is, perpetuated through the law enforcement agencies. They all think that they're doing some great service, and it's like half the time maybe, most of the time not. I'm sorry, I value a paramedic or a doctor or a nurse over a police officer any time of the day, backwards and forwards, because guess what? They can walk into any situation halfway, not know the full context, and make a fatal decision that someone will get charged or killed or whatever, and that's just it. They refuse to de-escalate more often than not, and they just look for every opportunity to fucking jump on you. And then they'll claim, oh, he resisted. It's like, yeah, you'd resist too if somebody was fucking beating the crap out of you.
Well, Alan in the chat brought up something as I was looking it up. Alan in the chat brought up Louisiana House Bill 173, which was signed into law last year by Governor Jeff Landry, made it criminalized approaching a police officer who was, quote, lawfully engaged in the execution of his official duties. Basically, it is a crime in Louisiana now to be within 25 feet of a law enforcement officer if they have asked you to stop approaching or to retreat. Those who break the law could face $500 in fines and up to 6 days in prison, or both. And this is purely a Republican thing. When John Bell Edwards, a very conservative yet Democrat, was in office, he vetoed the very same bill, saying it had the potential to chill First Amendment rights. Apparently, there has been potentially some legal action to block the enforcement while it works its way through the courts. However, it's from January 31st. But again, it still just goes to show you
always the same.
how much they want to be able to get away.
Criminals.
Yep, that's the whole thing.
Covering for criminals, and they just want and what they basically want is it's basically the mob. Oh, you got to pay us. Protection money. And this is the way it works. Everybody, from the top right down to the bottom. There are good states and then there are bad states. You look at Minnesota. The fact that Tim Walz went and said, we are now offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals to all school-age children 365 days of the year now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real leader. That's somebody who cares about the people that he serves. That is serve and protect. None of this other bullshit that these idiots, Republicans go, oh, I need tax breaks because I don't make enough already. It's like, it's stupid. The rich have everything already. They don't need any more. They need to start fucking paying their share of taxes. They got more than enough money to last 10 lifetimes, and they don't need any more help. you know, and it's always the same. It's always the same corruption. Oh, I can't give my politician money directly. Well, if he's got any kids, I can always hire his kids and give him a really high-paying bullshit job, or his wife is, we can put her out on the speaker circuit and give her, $20,000 for every appearance that she shows up and says 20 minutes of a speech and get applause. And, this is how it happens. It's all fucking corruption. It's everywhere. And they just cover themselves in it, and they're non-apologetic about it. And, there is, it's not going to stop until we stop it, because we have let it go to the extent where everything is fucked. Nothing works the way it's supposed to anymore. You know? But, I don't
Jesus Christ. Chris, Alan in the chat. I was in uniform coming home from work, a uniform that requires a badge and sidearm, when a cop threatened to shoot me for having a holstered weapon in a state where it's legal to open carry. Yeah. Because that, like, have you ever seen the video of the, there's a video where it's like a white person walking down a street with a rifle strapped to his back or whatever in an open carry state, and the police officer approaches the person but is like, can you show me ID? The guy's like, I don't need to show you my identification, like doing all sorts of the sovereign citizen Jedi mind tricks that they like to do on the cops. And he walked away, no problem. Meanwhile, they show a black person walking down the street with his pregnant wife or girlfriend or whatever, and they forced him to the ground. They forced her to the ground as well to go sit on the curb, and he had to get on his stomach, moving his legally carried gun away. Why? Because he was black and the other person was white. So the laws that conservatives like to tout, like to create, like to make are only for white people. They're not for black people. Just like the whole, you can run over a protester in traffic, whatever. That's, that's only supposed to be used if you are reasonable in believing that the protester is a threat to your life, and then at which point you can run them over. But in reality, they just want to use it to be able to run over everybody, and they'll believe a white person when they say, well, I thought my life was threatened. Okay, we'll believe you. But if a black person happened to feel like somebody waving a Confederate flag was a threat to their life, and they ran them over, they wouldn't have the opportunity to use that law, because these laws are only for white people, just like stand your ground, just like self-defense, just like anything else. Barissa Alexander shoots a gun in the air in her own home to try and ward off her abuser. She gets locked up in prison. But George Zimmerman, who is technically Caucasian, if Latino, because Latin is like Hispanic and is not a race, it's an ethnicity, whatever, blah, blah, blah. George Zimmerman gets to shoot Trayvon Martin, no problem. But if Trayvon Martin would have survived and said, I was standing my ground, he would have never been able to use that, because he would have probably went to prison anyway for what he supposedly did.
It's always the same double standard. That's just it, because it's basically cruelty cosplaying as decency, or the good old boys rules. It's different for different people, because we're if you're white, it's a totally different situation. And this is the thing.
Or if you're white, then you're all right.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Republicans play the game because this has worked in their favor for, since the end of slavery. And, and this is the thing. Slavery hasn't ended. It's just changed in some ways. I mean, the same thing. The immigrants are basically people that, they know that there's a certain amount of safety that they can't find in their own country, so they come here and they're willing to put up with shit because it's better to have a full belly and a bed to sleep on, and work the extra hours for little or no money than to be at home in their own country where everybody is desperate, everybody's fighting for the food, the water isn't clean, there isn't the conditions are poor at best. You've got gangs roaming the streets who will drop you in a second without any thought or regret, and that's just it. That's the thing. They come here for a better life because they know that even though the system here is really fucking shitty, it's better than what they can have at home.
Yep. I do have to do something for Susie Jones's benefit in the chat. I have to do my imitation of T-I-double-G-R. Sorry, she quoted Tigger in chat, so I needed to do that for her. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, like I said, there's nothing more really to be said. The only thing I would suggest is, if you haven't seen it, go watch the Weekend show with Anthony Davis and Jared Sexton Yates from yesterday, because it's all laid out there in black and white, and it's everything that I just said. Basically, it's that we have let things go to the point where everything now is fucking broken. Nothing works in a timely manner. We're basically living on life support, and they're the Republicans are basically trying to pull the cord on the respirator, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically make us desperate so that way they can be our masters. They so desperately crave the power that this is where they're going to bring us to, because they want to put us on the verge of, they decide everything we do, everything we think, everything we say. That's where you're at right now.
Right.
And that's just it. That's where you're at. And you can pretend, oh no, it's not that bad. Well, it is. It is. You are there now.
I think it's
you
worse.
Are at,
however bad you and I think it is, it's probably 10 times worse. We're just not seeing everything yet because our media isn't doing their job. That's as simple as that. It's probably however bad that I don't want to be you don't want to be a downer sometimes when you call in or whatever, but you're spitting facts. But I'm going to say this. I'll say flat out, however bad that you think it is from up there, however bad that I think it is from down here, it's probably 10 times worse because we don't get to see everything. And that's the scary thing, is that there are things in motion, there are things that are going on in this administration right now that they're in the planning stages of that, we have to be ready for all of the, as was it, Rumsfeld said, the unknown unknowns. We don't know what some of these things, we know some of it because we know the playbook. But some creative, racist, Nazi asshat's going to be coming up with something new, like, whatchamacallit, Pee Wee German, and we're going to freaking have to deal with that bullshit that's coming down the pipe too, so.
That, and just realize that this whole Iran thing, it's just a distraction. That's all it is.
Yep.
This works in his favor because, number one, Netanyahu needs credit to say, oh, see, look at what I did as a leader. I pulled the U.S. in, and they're taking out our greatest enemy and whatnot, and what know-how, and Trump is like, oh, well, I need a distraction from all the shit of my failed policies, as well as, all the people that are upset that I'm upsetting the balance and making their lives more miserable, as well as, you guys are what? Maybe 3 weeks away from empty shelves and your food supply being compromised. That's what it boils down to.
But they'll find the MAGA idiots will find a way to blame China, to blame liberals, to blame the Democrats, to blame all the other people, to blame people who are undocumented. They'll find a way to blame anybody they want, except for Herr Trump, who's the one who's ultimately in the problem. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're unable to critically think. Nope. Critical thinking requires introspection as well as, looking for answers, as opposed to looking for scapegoats, which is what they live off. They scapegoat everything. Oh, it's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. Oh, it's their fault. I didn't do nothing. No, exactly. You didn't do anything to fix the problem.
You
didn't look at the problem. You didn't acknowledge the problem. All you did was you basically pushed it down the road and said, oh, it's not my problem anymore. It's now your problem. This is how they fucking exist. Yep. So, You make it impossible to not hate Republicans because they are sycophants who are apologists to the cruelest people on the planet and who only get away with it because they have money and power. And that's just it. And anybody who votes for a Republican, as far as I'm concerned, has shit for brains as well as no empathy whatsoever, because that's what you're voting for. It's cruelty. And it's not like we don't shout it from the rooftops and tell them that this is what's going on and you should know better. They've heard it all before, and they just ignore it.
Yep.
Here's one thing that I ran into here in Canada. We have one guy that I know of, and he's a pro-China guy. And he said, my life, I could live in Hong Kong and I would have a better life. And I said, no, you wouldn't.
Right.
I said, you'd lose all your freedoms. He says, oh, no, monetarily. I said, yeah, but ethically, you wouldn't be able to speak your mind. You wouldn't be able to do any of that. And he's like, well, that's not important. And that's when I realized.
That's the difference between us and them. That's the difference, is that everything to them comes down to the bottom line, the money. As long as they can make $1 off of it, they don't care about anything else. And that's a damn shame.
I said, you realize, if you went there, and he says, oh, but it's not like that in Hong Kong. And I said, you realize that Hong Kong was built with British standards. That's why everything survives there. That's why the infrastructure is held up as long as it has. But you are looking at infrastructure now that's close to 100 years old and is going to start deteriorating. So to say, and I said, China can't build shit. They have the tofu dreg problem. Everybody cheats in their construction industry.
Right.
Everything is horrible, And he says, oh, well, I won't go to China. I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about Hong Kong. And it's like, don't you see what you're talking about? And I said, you can't even mention the word Tiananmen Square. And he says, why would anyone talk about Tiananmen Square? That's in the past. That has nothing to do with today. It's like, it has everything to do with today. You guys have lost, your independence, your ability to hold grievance with your government and to make the government accountable. You've lost all of that. And he can't.
Why would we talk about slavery? Why would we talk about the Nazis? Why would we talk about anything? That just happened in the past, and things that happen in the past never happen in the future because history never repeats itself, right? Yeah, that's
exactly. And this is the thing. This is what I'm looking at, and I'm going, and he said to me, "This is an argument you can't win." He says, because I can say what I want and what I believe, and you can say what you want and what you believe, and we'll never agree. And it's like, and therefore I win and you win, and in fact nobody wins because we cancel each other out. And it's like,
right?
Are you shitting me? Are you fucking shitting me? And at which point it's like, I have to walk away because it's pointless. This guy can't do the math. He can't acknowledge what is true. He just wants to believe what he wants to believe. So long as he's got his toys, it's the old saying, he who dies with the most toys wins. And that's essentially what he's become.
One vision in chat. You're right. I've never met anyone who has pleasured themselves twice. I'm rephrasing the word or whatever. I don't know what YouTube's going to pick up on now and be a pain in the ass about. But I'm sitting there like, well, I mean, technically all the Republicans are doing is just one giant state of self-pleasure with their red hats and orange skin fetish or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, just Whatever. Anyway,
Well,
I thought it was funny.
what I
So
want to here's the thing that I want to say. Okay, you guys need to organize. You need to plan, and you need to resist. And that means that you guys need to create neighborhood watches. It means that you need to invest in some air horns. It means you have to have signals that are available so that way you can protect your population from these jackbooted thugs parading around as ICE. You need to refuse them service. You need to check out the hotels. You have to document them, videotape them, whatever, take pictures of them. You know, I mean, these assholes actually go into the hotels and start and are, you know, threatening to arrest the hotel workers and the restaurant workers who serve them.
yep.
You know,
But they probably, here's the thing. Here's how they're evil. They would probably go into the restaurant, have them serve them, eat, and then probably stiff the server with the bill and arrest them if they thought that they were not here legally either.
it's the same thing with it's the same thing. It's the same scenario as the farm workers.
Yep.
Basically, you know, I'm sure that there are the MAGA ones that do this shit. I have no doubt that that's what's going on, and I'll bet you they have a deal. I'll tell you exactly when they're finished, and you can come in and you can swap them all up, and I'll take their money.
Yep.
The money that I owe them.
They'll probably try and get. They'll probably try and get a reward. They'll probably try and get a reward.
Some of it with you.
They'll probably try and get a reward from the government to, you know, to be like, you know, oh, you turned in somebody who is here undocumented or whatever, turned in one of them illegals, as they say, and then they'll get a watch that. That's probably the next thing. The Trump administration will set up some sort of reward for turning in people, and then they'll probably do it and probably try and convince the people who get the reward to turn that money and make campaign contributions for Donald Trump's third term, because he probably still thinks he can serve one.
Anyway, this is what, like I said, organize, you know, plan, resist, come up with a plan. I've made suggestions. You wear a baseball cap, you wear sunglasses, you wear a face mask, you move in large groups of people so that way they can't, because they won't. There's strength in numbers, and that's just it. These guys won't attempt anything if they know that they're going to get a beat down should they come out across a crowd that is motivated and knows that they hold the upper hand, you know, and they can go and document the shit out of them, you know. Go to the hotels, take pictures of these people, you know, make sure that they know that they're going to be held accountable one day. This good old boys network crap has got to come to an end, you know. And that's the thing. It's your country, and you can take it back from these jackbooted thugs, as well as, you know. I mean, like I just said, with the police and stuff, they don't. They live to give a beating on somebody. You know, it's you know, they don't protect and serve anymore. They just basically, they're predators. You know, that's what they are. They look for weak targets that they can bully and that they can do shit to, and they think they can get away with, and they can't even quote you the law half the time, and they just, you know, and they get upset when you refuse to identify, and when you say, oh, what articulable crime have I committed? What is your justification for the stop? Oh, what? You said you stopped me for tinted windows. Now it's something else. Oh, I pretended that I smelled alcohol or weed.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's always fucking lie after lie after lie. That's all it is, you know. And this is the thing: you guys have allowed it to happen. This is where you're at. You're at the crux of that. All they got to do now is give you a finger push over the cliff. That's all it is.
Well, I mean,
you know
that is. I mean, Alan in chat says they never did protect and serve. Well, that's because the modern policing started as slave catchers or whatever. But yeah, they will. You know, we have a Supreme Court that has basically said, look, you're a police officer. You don't even have to know the law. All you have to do is believe that you are enforcing the law correctly, and your stops are okay. And that was, I mean, that was the Hain case that I brought up last time. It's It's bizarre that where we are in this country with what we have allowed to have happen with policing. And look, there are either people who there's a large chunk of people who are police who are either A, the bullies in high school who wanted to continue bullying, or B, the people who were bullied in high school who believe that this is their opportunity to now get theirs by bullying as cops. Are there some who might be good? I mean, I posited that there are potentially some that are good, but then Ann Kirkpatrick and the NOPD just fucking ruined that for me today until I find out otherwise. I'm really fucking pissed that I'm sitting here on my show trying to use Ann Kirkpatrick as an idea as somebody who might be an example of a good cop, and then the NOPD gets used in ICE raids today, and I'm fucking pissed off at that. So, anyway.
Well, that's like the New York mayor. I mean, everybody thought, oh yeah, he's great, and then I mean, Bill Maher of all people was going, oh God, what are you guys up to? Why is it such a big deal that he accepted flights from the Turkish airline and took upgrades and took these trips where he was wined and dined like a Saudi prince everywhere he went, and to make contacts in the network and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, all this for what? A permit to clear a building that couldn't pass code. Mm-hmm. And that's just it. We're here because we have let things go to the point where, it's not a matter of keeping, not breaking the law. It's a question now of how much does it cost to break the law now?
Yep.
What is the cost?
Well, and when you have laws where the punishment is only a fine, the law is only a law for poor people, because the rich people are like, all right, I'm going to pay this fine and I'll deal with it. It's fine. But with Bill Maher, I used to watch Bill Maher religiously. I used to love, Politically Incorrect. I used to love Real Time with Bill Maher. I used to watch him constantly. But then he just got completely boomerized and is just so absurd. He'll make a point that I agree with every once in a while if I catch a clip of it, but usually it's just him, just kissing ass and again being an example of the media that we need to replace. So,
well, like I said, I laid out some suggestions. Like I said, you need to go to boycott your car rental companies. Figure out what cars they have, take the license plates, when you figure out what car they're driving, what plates are on it, print posters and put it out there, make it be known, come up with a system with air horns so that way everybody knows when they're roaming the streets and whatnot. Have a system, whether it be, even, a ribbon on the door handle that indicates, yes, you're a safe harbor house where people can run to and seek shelter till ICE have run out of options. Because that's how we defeat this.
Right.
We have to be like the French Resistance. We have to do the same stuff. And we have to unmask these people and make it be known that this is not going to stand and that we are taking back our country. We are not going to go along with a system here now that has been corrupted to the point where it's basically a genocide occurring right before us. We are following the Nazi playbook step by step. Americans are not looked upon with, any admiration anymore, because we have fucked up we fuck up every single time. Every time we get in a good president, the world says, oh yes, it's great. The Americans have finally figured things out. And then it's and then you go back to the crap again. You just keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. You keep buying the Republican bullshit. And you go one step forward and then you go two steps back every fucking time. It's just ridiculous.
Right. It is.
But anyway, all right, I'm running out of steam here. I can't.
That's fine. That's totally okay. I mean, look.
I hope I serve a purpose, because that's the thing. I want to be of service to the general public, because people need to know what's going on and why it has occurred and why it keeps going on the way it has, because that's the thing.
I think one of the things Josh said earlier, to talk about, like, your resistance ideas, whatever, and the ideas that you people can do, like, having in, their air horns, hearing all this stuff. I mean, like, you wouldn't necessarily think that all across this country you would have to start, screaming out La Policia to people to warn them that it's not safe for them to be there. I think Josh had asked in the chat, is it legal to put an air tag on an ICE vehicle? My comment would be probably, but I'm not going to tell you no. The other problem is that there was an example of somebody who tried to take a picture of an ICE agent's.
The cop came out and pointed a gun at him.
He pointed a gun at him, which is completely going against the force escalation. Taking a picture of a license plate is not justification to raise your gun, to unholster your weapon, to point your weapon at somebody. That is an assault. That is assaulting somebody. If you threaten somebody with a gun, that's assault. And it's not legal to do so as a police officer unless you have a reason to do so, and taking a picture of a license plate is not a reason to do so. Unfortunately, we have lived in a society, as you've pointed out, as we talked about, that we allow police officers to get away with too much shit, and when you allow that to happen, and you cede that much power to people who are in charge, to people who are in law enforcement, it's very, very difficult to then get it back. So,
well, that's my concern. My concern is, are you beyond the point of return?
I don't know.
Decency.
I hope we're not. I would like to think that there are enough good people left in this country who want to do the right thing. But unfortunately, the people who should be siding with each other, and here's where I'll criticize the left. I mean, I'm on the left. I consider myself to be progressive left, even though I call myself liberal, and people who are leftists tend to have huge problems with the labels liberal. But we need to stop the bullshit of, oh, you're not far enough left, and we need to fight the existing Nazis that we have running this party now. MAGA is the existential threat that's facing, and once we destroy the GOP, then we can worry about, splitting up where the rest of the dust settles when it comes to party loyalty and party affiliation. But until there's no more GOP, I'm not going to sit here and fight Democrats when it's the Republicans and the MAGA idiots are the ones that we need to be fighting. So,
well, the other thing is don't be ashamed of using terms like socialism. They
right.
have basically gone and turned it into a dirty word, and the fact of the matter is it's not a dirty word.
Right.
It's a system by which, everybody has their basic needs met, and that, everything is transparent. The government shows you your taxes. The government shows you where your taxes were spent, whether it be on infrastructure, health care, education, housing, energy grid upgrades, all that stuff is there. You see where your money and your everything is going. And then on top of that, you're guaranteed a retirement at the end. All you got to do is show up and be a productive member of society.
Right.
And that's all that they ask. That's not horrible. That's smart.
And then what happens once we hit a post-scarcity society? These Republicans, these conservatives don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. They would rather everybody else die so they can, live in their big world by themselves instead of, actually worrying about how to.
That's what Jared Yates Sexton was saying. He said that there isn't enough to go around. Therefore, somebody has to be punished. And it's like, yes, there is enough to go around. The difference is that some people have squirreled away all of it, and others are not able to get it because they've set the price point way too high. I mean, that's what it is. You know, the thing is that you guys have been living off subsidized living forever. You've always relied on cheap foreign labor to do the jobs that nobody else will do, whether it be food picking, whether it be making clothes, whether it be, you know, and I mean, the only difference is that you switched it all over to China because you thought, oh, well, we're going to bring China out of the dark ages and we're going to teach them to be a better society. And that never happened.
One vision in chat.
Slave labor.
One vision in chat goes, "How is a person raising children, never working, not a productive member of society?" Well, here you go. If that person is a white housewife working for a conservative white individual, then absolutely the conservatives are going to consider that person a productive member of society. If that person is a single mom trying to raise kids with government benefits, oh, well, that's a welfare queen. That's somebody who is a leech off of society. You know, it just depends on the color of the skin will determine whether or not raising a child makes you productive or a leech.
Yeah, but like I said, it's all semantics. Everything is semantics. It's an excuse to justify the cruelty, and that's the thing. You guys have taken cruelty to the point where it's an art form. You know, you allow it and you export it now because other countries now see what you guys get away with, and then they take it and they extend it even further. You know, and that's just it. You know, Hitler basically got a lot of his ideas from looking at how the slaves were treated here and how it was dealt with and whatnot, you know. And, you know, Henry Ford and his Elders of Zion protocol bullshit, which he did with the, you know, and he used to put the booklets in the Model Ts and stuff, you know. I mean,
hold on a second. Hold on. I need to make the joke before I forget it. Shin Godzilla says in chat, the days of June Cleaver are far in the past. I was like, yeah, nowadays when Ward's out looking for beaver, it has a whole different connotation. Anyway, continue.
Yes. Well, like I said, you have come to a period where you either make the change now and fix most of the inequalities, and yes, maybe the billionaires will run away with all their money. But you know what? The thing is that you still can take their factories or whatever. You can turn them into cooperatives. The government can give you startup money, and you can get things running, and you can be a free and fair society where people, you know, share in the profits, as well as, you know, other things. And that's just it, you know. I mean, it's always the same story. They'll say, oh, well, there isn't enough to go around. And it's like, no, there's plenty to go around. It's a lie that you've been fed forever. Yep.
Right, as Alan in the chat says, if you know, there's plenty of food that gets thrown away every day at grocery stores, at restaurants, etc. We have a whole crap ton of waste that could be spent on feeding people, but that would mean less profits, which, you know.
Yeah, but that stuff is rotting right now on a port right now.
Yeah.
The USAID food is sitting there rotting on a port. Bill Gates offered to take it and distribute it. And they said no. Why? Right. He offered to shoulder the cost. He offered to distribute it and to, you know, do a decent thing. And they said no.
Yep.
That is fucked up beyond belief.
FUBAR. Definition of FUBAR.
Yeah, you know. Anyway, I don't know.
All right, man. Well,
I feel like I've driven myself insane, but I've made some cogent points which I think people can follow and do something with. So I think I've served my purpose here today. Hopefully, people can expand upon what I've said and you know, and take to heart what I see as the problem.
Well, everyone except for
Anyway.
maybe one person in chat seems to like what you have to say. So, and I always appreciate you calling in. So again, thank you so much. Look, if we had more callers, then I'd probably have to shorten your time calling in. But since we don't, you get to call in a good bunch, and well, I appreciate it regardless. So thank you so much, man. I hope you have a good.
Let's just call it what it is. It's me exercising my conscience.
Yes.
You know.
I wish more people would do so loudly and vociferously, if that's not, not being overly repetitive.
Okay, well, take care of yourself, Dan. Once again,
right.
You're head and shoulders above the rest, as they say.
I have that frickin' parody in my head now. I'm constantly singing in my head, Liberal Dan Radio is the best, because Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. It's constantly in my head now. I've created it my own earworm.
You can do with it what you want. I sell it to you for free. It's yours to do with what you want.
Thank you so much. Anyway, have a great one. Right, appreciate you. I'll talk to you Wednesday.
Okay, take care. Bye.
All right, bye. All right, everybody. That's big hook, everyone. Let's go ahead and shut down the phone lines for a second because we're probably going to be ending soon. But I did want to go over the two things. Trucker John over on Twitch had said Brian Taylor Cohen has had like 3 million subscribers on YouTube. Well, then why the hell does he need to keep using clickbait? If you have 3 million subscribers, you shouldn't need clickbait to try and do bullshit. Like, of the two of us, I should be the one who should be doing clickbaity things, but I don't want to do clickbaity things. I want to give you actual information. But I have half of mine to start, like, asking AI, hey, AI, what can I do? What can I make videos about that's going to drive the algorithm up? Because I haven't quite figured it out otherwise. And maybe that'll work. I don't know. But anyway, Aaron is applauding big. One of the things I do want to talk about with big AI, which was hilarious. So I was going to make this image right here as the cover image for my Baby Incubators song. But as you can see, they screwed up the Liberal Dan Radio logo by adding another R into it. It almost was right, but I asked ChatGPT to then say, okay, remove the Liberal Dan Radio logo and Gilead's here. And it goes, this image generation request did not follow content policy. And I was just like, okay. So I was like, why? Your recent suggestion was lost because Liberal Dan Radio logo and the phrase Gilead's here may have shifted the image focus too directly onto the rating elements, particularly the phrase not going to be a baby incubator alongside symbolic protest visuals. Without broader context or balance like a show logo or a framing title, this kind of standalone imagery may be interpreted as too politically provocative without clear editorial framing or potentially inflammatory, yada, yada, yada. Here's how we can work around it. They give me a list of how to work around it. I say remove all words and just leave the images because, whatever. As one of the examples here, the image generation request did not follow content policy. So I say create an image with the hospital and people protesting outside. So here you go. So one of the things I think that could have said, that request is also too sensitive with the combination of medical settings, symbolism, and political protest themes. How I can help you. Either you can give me a darkened cityscape with bonnet silhouettes, scales of justice, a faceless crowd, or a barbed wire fence separating women's silhouettes from the Capitol or courthouse. So I said, okay, generate a dark cityscape with bonnet silhouettes. Exactly what they told me to do. That image generation request did not follow our content policy. Why? The request is likely blocked because even a dark cityscape with bonnet silhouettes can still be interpreted as yada. Well, why'd you tell me you could do it then? So, how to proceed? 1, 2, 3. Give me a symbolic protest scene with blank signs and minimalist stylized characters. Show me a symbolic protest scene with minimalist figures. This image generation request did not follow our content policy. Why? Because of here. What you can do to generate it. Futuristic or dystopian cityscape. Create futuristic dystopian cityscape. And they finally gave me this, which I was able to then throw it into image alter, put my own logo in, put the words in, and then I got my stuff. So that's how fun dealing with AI can be. Whatever. So let's see. Big Hook. I hope I wasn't too gruff. Haven't offended anybody. You know what? If you offended anybody, then they probably shouldn't be listening to Liberal Dan Radio talk from the left. That's right. Anyway, because we like that. We like being that vociferous or whatever. Let's see. Shin Godzilla. For some reason, I, being Dan the man, appreciate the name Dan. Well, there you go. Welcome, Dan. Appreciate all Dans to the show, as well as everybody else. You could be a liberal Danimal. Let's see. If there's something playing in the background of the feed, I think there was some wind and potentially my echo coming through Big Hook's phone this time. It wasn't that bad, so I didn't say anything, but it was a little more noticeable than normal. Not a big deal. So, but yes, I'm very glad you call in. I'm very glad I can agree with 99.99% of the things that you say, and very few things that you would say that I don't agree with. But let's see. I'm a One Vision. I'm a telepath. I know what shoe you put on last this morning. This sounds like one of the things that someone would say on Bourbon Street to try and convince you to, have them give you give them $5. Like, one of the things they'll say down on Bourbon Street is like, I bet you know where you got your shoes. And it's where? You got your shoes on your feet in Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. Because not where you purchased your shoes, but where you got your shoes. That's where you got your shoes. Somebody walked up to me one time and was like, I bet you know where you got your shoes. I was like, yeah, I bet you do too. And I continued walking, and the guy was like, I gave you $5 to shine your shoes. I'm looked at my shoes, and I'm like wearing like canvas shoes or whatever. I'm like, really? That doesn't even make any sense. Did you even look at my shoes before I said it? And then the guy was like, all right, I bet you $5 I can spell your last name. And I'm looking at him. I was like, well, I haven't heard this one yet. I'm like, let me think about it a second. And I was like, okay, YOURLSTANAME? He was like, yeah. I was like, well, you know what? That was the first time I ever heard that, so I'm going to give you $5 anyway, because at least you were creative. Let's see, One Vision. Your left shoe, you put on your left shoe on because you put on one shoe and then you put on the other shoe that was left. That absolutely is something that one of these folks would say if they were trying to get you $5 off of you on Bourbon Street down here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's see. Can we get you more viewers from 21st Century Suffragettes? I mean, I would love for anybody to, come over from wherever they are, regardless of, 21st Century Suffragettes, my dude, Boston Brian, Hal, whatever. I wish I could figure out what I needed to do to get the numbers up. Like, I thought that maybe, the Baby Incubator song might be enough to be a hit, but maybe it's a little too early to judge. Maybe it needs a little more time for people to get out there and start sharing it. But one of the things that people, if you really want to see the show take off, you just need to like every single video, comment on every single video, respond to other people's comments on every single video as much as you can. That's going to help the algorithm. That's going to get more people seeing the videos. Somehow, some way, I don't know what happened with tonight's show, the second half of tonight's show, i.e. the first half of tonight's show, before it actually got, nuked by, YouTube's logic or whatever. But I don't know what happened. Oh, I mean, we still get some. I guess on the 16th. So I guess on the 16th when we went live, I did have 430 views eventually, which is not bad. Although for some reason the current live that's going on says 96 views. But when I'm looking at my stream here, it's showing 368 views. So I don't know what's up with those numbers. But let's see. One Vision. I love how you called me out, knowing not to bet for the next round of beers. But then again, I also gave you another way to get you to bet for the next round of beers. If you said, I bet you a new round of beers that I could spell your last name. And if you don't know, if that person doesn't know you, they'll be like, okay, do it. And you'd be like, YOURLASTNAME. So there you go. more fuel for your fodder, so to speak. Let's see, 21st Century Suffragettes is live with 5 eggs. I mean, it's fine, whatever. I am running very late today. I usually don't go until 11:30, so it's fine. I'm not going to complain when other people go live, especially when I go, hey, buy some bot farms. Yeah, that's what I need. I want quality. But I don't think that's how Boston Brian's do it. I don't even think that's how Trucker John's doing it. Trucker John got the 3,000 and I'm stuck at 1,200. So again, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But regardless, what we're going to probably do now is go ahead and probably end the show. We will end the show. We'll play Baby Incubators again in case you missed the Baby Incubators song. And then we'll play the Liberal Dan theme song. And then we'll play the Steve versus Dan. And then we'll play... I don't even know if we'll play the outro at that point. Or maybe we'll do the Liberal Dan theme song last, because that has a good long outro. And then we won't have to worry about the other song. That's the intro to the whatever. Anyway, so thank you all very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help the algorithm out, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. And if you don't join us for nerdydan.com Tuesday night over on twitch.tv/nerdydan.com, just, come back Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll go ahead and discuss more politics. And again, just to remind everybody, I'll remind everybody on Wednesday as well, I'm out of town next week, so what I post might be either short videos or maybe a quick live from my cell or whatever. I'm probably not going to do a full-on show next week at all, and then the first show of the week afterwards will probably be Tuesday night, because July 7th is my anniversary, and I'm not doing a podcast on my anniversary, unless she happens to just fall asleep because she's exhausted from the day, and then at which point I'll make an exception. But I'll play that one by ear. Anyway, Tim, I think the Carol Burnett show had a good formula for success, so I'm just going to end every show by tugging on my ear then. Anyway, so... Be Tim Conway-ish. That mean I have to get down on my knees and shuffle and walk really slow? I don't know. I mean, it's always a good idea to be, if you could be more Tim Conway-ish, be more Tim Conway-ish. But anyway, thank you all very much. Appreciate everybody who hung around for the entirety of the show, especially through the YouTube, blip or whatever. So again, coming up now will be Baby Incubators, followed by the parody, followed by the theme song, followed by me maybe making something to eat before I go to bed. So thank y'all very much. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds, treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake, but the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect, but they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap, rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just state-owned pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
creative director at WGSO, had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. For patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated, Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right.
I like turtles.